Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 14th regular City Council meeting. Call this meeting to order. And with that, D. Stiles Elliott, will you please call roll?
Mayor Benjamin.
Present.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Schulmuth.
Here.
Councilmember Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Great. So let me get to announcements. So for announcements this week, there's several things happening this next week. Excited to have you involved with. On April 19th through the 22nd, so that's starting on Sunday, we'll be hosting a delegation from Okinawa, giving them tours around Pullman, so make sure if you see them, come say hi. The next Pullman Day of Service is on Wednesday, April 22nd for Earth Day. Join us as we bring Pullman community and WSU campus together through community service in honor of Earth Day. You can learn more and volunteer at pullman-wa.gov/days of service. And on Thursday, April 23rd at 2 o'clock, I'll be planting a tree for Arbor Day with the Pullman Preschool. It's always fun, and I'm excited to hear what's the name for their tree. They name all their trees, and that'll be at the Pullman Rec Center. Please come for that fun. For the intersection improvement project, there are 3 intersections left on the intersection improvement project. SR 270, so that's Main Street and Stadium Way, is currently underway but should be finished this Friday. This will be an all-way stop for the duration of the work. SR 270 Main Street and Bishop Boulevard will begin on Thursday, April 16th, and should be completed by Wednesday, April 22nd. Once again, this will be an all-way stop for the duration of the work. And then the last intersection, SR 270, is Main Street and Terraview, and that should start work sometime next week. Please note that while work is happening at this intersection, the Terraview one, the intersection with Terraview Drive will be closed in both directions. Airport traffic will be detoured to the Pullman-Moscow Airport Road near the Washington-Idaho border. So that will definitely have effect on our community. For Parks and Recreation, the Parks and Recreation Summer Activity Guide is available online now at pullman-wa.gov/rec. Take a look at all the fun programs that Park and Rec is offering this summer and get ready to buy your pool passes and register for activities. Registration begins this Thursday, April 16th, bright and early at 8 a.m. And for the library, the 5th annual art competition. Public's invited to the League of Women Voters 5th annual student art competition reception. That's going to happen at the library on Saturday, the 18th at noon. Come see all the wonderful local student art, meet the artists. It's even fun. One of them did a portrait of me as the mayor. So those are always fun. And to see more and other community events, visit the city's tourism page at http://www.visit-pullman.com/events. The next item on the agenda is community comments. This agenda item is the opportunity for public to bring comments to the attention of elected officials. Specifically, this item is reserved for public comments, concerns, or other information not related to a previous public hearing. This agenda item for comments will not exceed 30 minutes in total. Comments should be directed to the mayor or the city council as a body. No comments should be directed to an individual council member. And as part of the consolidation that the council did to make it easier, there's just one comment time for everything. So this would be the time if you have any comments, regular or for a final agenda item. With that, if anyone would like to provide comment, please come to the microphone. If you can introduce yourself so we make sure we get it correct in the minutes. And with that, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Bryce Erickson. I own B&L Bicycles downtown. I'm a city resident here for the last 30 years. I am concerned about the increase in sales tax that's being proposed As running a retail business, we have people coming into the stores, and sales tax is one of the things that we hear about, especially from those coming across from the Idaho side. And people in town also being able to avoid the sales tax simply by going across the border. So I'm concerned that the city is not operating within the budgets that they need to have, and raising taxes is punitive to those who run businesses in Pullman. And I think that we should probably consider ways to raise revenue rather than ways to raise taxes. The short-term rental keeps coming up, and I'm wondering how much money was lost from the changes in that, as I have customers coming into the store and talking about, well, we're just not going to do short-term rentals anymore because of the hassles in doing it. There's also the other restrictions that seem to be placed on businesses in the form of, well, you can look at the sidewalks and those permits that they were asking for that. Things that create unnecessary paperwork and take extra time. Seems like we're not going the right direction, and I have a lot of concerns with that. And I think that the City Council really needs to focus on ways to attract businesses to Pullman, ways to get people to, for businesses to be easier to start and easier to run with less restrictions placed upon them. And I think that's something that can be done by changing some of the things that are happening at the city level. So anyway, I'd just like to register my voice against raising sales taxes because I don't think it's very healthy or popular.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to provide public comment, please?
Hi, I'm Sandy Castle Del Conte. I run Brews Books, and I'm a board member of Pullman Market on Main, and I'm here to talk about the market today. I just wanted to give you a little update and let you know that we are working like crazy to move outside on May 16th. We're just like a duck, you know, everything looks calm on top, and underneath, like, we're paddling like crazy as we're trying to get traffic control taken care of, insurance, permitting, all those things. I did want to bring up one thing that would be helpful in the future anyway, for nonprofits like ours that are trying to support the community and to help little businesses get started in our downtown. Traffic control is very expensive for a little business like ours, and so we want to just acquire our own signs and place them ourselves. It would be very handy if the city was able to rent out their equipment at a low cost to businesses like ours in the future, so that we wouldn't have to worry about where to store the items. We could go and pick them up on a Friday evening. I've been told that Saturdays aren't usually a big day that signage is needed in Pullman, but anyway, just a little idea to broach to you. Yeah, and anyway, other than that, things are going good. We have new vendors coming on board. We also have some die-hard vendors who are so excited to be here in Pullman, so thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to provide comment?
Good evening, Bobby Ryder, Downtown Pullman Association. There were 168 interfraternity and sorority council members downtown for Greek Week. As volunteers, they tackled a variety of projects just to make the downtown spruce it up, let's say, including washing windows for 8 businesses, which translated to approximately 3,800 square feet of washed glass, sweeping sidewalks, power washing the river silt off of Pine Street Plaza, and the alley behind Neil's Coffee, Ice Cream, and Flower Shop, and Vision Source. And we will have another group coming down that will help us do that, I believe, on Thursday of this week to finish the back of that alley. The Washington Main Street program will host, they're going to host the executive director's spring leadership training in Pullman and Colfax and La Crosse. So we're doing a sister city kind of thing. So there will be more than 30 community development leaders that will arrive in Pullman. We'll give them a tour of the downtown. We'll talk about all of the great things that we have going on. We'll talk about things that were a little unusual, like losing your bridge 2 years in a row and some of the challenges that we have, but that it's our resilience that brings us back and is going to make us move forward. And then I also want to talk about the Art Walk. This is May 16th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're developing 4 to 6 experience stations where people of all ages can try their hand at spinning a pot or painting a small canvas and things like that, decorating a rock. We anticipate mural restoration demonstration for the Heroes in Sports mural. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to provide a community comment? Seeing none, we'll close community comments and go on to council member comments, and I'll start with Councilmember Vance.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came up and spoke. We've definitely seen a lot, and again, been reading through a lot of content the last few days in regards to some of the stuff coming up. So thank you for sharing your voice and coming up to speak with us.
Councilmember Fajarin.
Thank you. I'll save most of my comments for the agenda item, but I do also want to thank everybody that I personally had a conversation with, whether it's virtual or in person, over the sales tax issue we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it is appropriate to save councilmember comments till if this is a specific agenda item related. With that, Councilmember Weller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to bring up that the Whitman Recovery Community Center fundraiser raised over $10,000, and of course that was done in conjunction with over there in Moscow, and it was a great event. So that was about double what we did the first year that we opened last year. So it's huge success, really speaks to our community's support. So those were all designated for Pullman for our recovery center. So I wanted to say that, and then also I had the great opportunity to attend. It was the Rural Jails Network Research Group, and it was interesting to sit in the room with the sheriff, probation officer, and several other people, and there is a concerning trend in rural areas where there is an increasing population of individuals in rural jails. So I did want to mention that. So sorry, I shouldn't have ended on the bad note, but anyways, I wanted to let people know.
Councilmember McDonald.
So I echo the other comments. Wanted to thank the community for being active, being engaged. It doesn't matter if it's like commenting online, sending emails. A lot of us have gotten a lot of emails about this and other topics. It's actually surprised me since coming into office, the amount of emails that we get and the care and the thoughts that go with those emails. And then, of course, coming here as well and sharing your feedback and your thoughts. It is one of the things I really love about Pullman is how much people care about each other, care about the community, and want our collective success, shared collective success.
Councilmember Parks.
And I will, just echo what everyone has said, and I really appreciate our community and how engaged many people are with the city government.
Councilmember Schumas.
Keep mine short. I just want to thank everybody, Bryce, Sandy, and Bobby, for getting up and communicating with us, and everybody who sends us emails as well. Thank you very much.
And Councilmember Wright.
I would echo all of those same comments and just end it with Pullman cares. Bottom line, that's what we do. So thank you all for your comments and your desire to communicate with us, because I think that does make a difference. So thank you all.
Thank you. I had a couple comments that I wanted as mayor. One is thank you for everybody that came out for the Take Back the Night this last Friday. I appreciate those that continue to work to advocate for improvements as it relates to relationships with. The second thing is excited that we have a new set of banners that are downtown. I didn't want to steal Bobby's thunder, but so make sure you check out the new downtown banners. And the last one, Chief Shornarst and I had the opportunity this weekend to attend a gathering of Kenyans that are local within our region. They were honoring one of theirs that happens to be the couple that started the first adult home in Pullman, of which them and their network has grown to 40 adult homes within Pullman and 100 more up to Spokane. So they definitely are entrepreneurs that have really made a difference in our community in that way. And for Chief Shornarst and I, we got invited into them with their cloak de Sambit, and then also each of us given a leadership stick. You need to check his out. His is much fancier than mine, and honestly, I'd say they really appreciated. They'd asked specifically if the fire chief could be there, and it's because with the adult homes, if they have a need, an issue, and they call 911, it's the firefighters that show up, that assist the residents that are there. And that we're so appreciative, and throughout the night, there were so many glowing comments that the chief received related to our fire department and what our fire department has done in their lives and how appreciated it was. It was great to hear those comments. So the next item on the agenda. Oh, and in addition, I'd say the group did present the chief with the check for the fire department also. So not only was it comments, but they actually made a donation for them, which was great. Next item up is future regular agenda item requests. Do any council members have any future agenda item requests? Councilmember McDonald?
Yeah, so I would like to have us have, and maybe we need to wait for goal setting, but hopefully we can do it sooner than later, but I'd like to see a future agenda item on what we are doing to encourage and ease the ability to visit Pullman, particularly on busy football, graduation, parent, and opening weekends. And one area in particular, which I think we've all gotten a lot of emails about and probably seen online, is around RV parking and what we can do to put unused parking lots to use, particularly if the property owners are interested.
And that's one that, yes, you can make it, I can take a second, but it is part of the discussion as it relates to future agenda, which also then will rank order as a part of the agenda process, will rank order of when things come to. But is there a second that would like to support that?
Second.
Okay, great. Any other future agenda item requests? Okay, on to the consent agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion of the City Council without separate discussion. I'd entertain a motion to read the consent agenda by title only.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, if you could read the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is a motion to dispense with the reading of the March 10, 2026 regular meeting minutes and approve them as submitted. Item 2, motion to dispense with the reading of the March 24, 2026 regular meeting minutes and approve them as submitted. The next item, a motion to dispense with the March 25, 2026 special meeting minutes and approve them as submitted. Next, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 2011-33908 through 2011-34081, totaling $770,557.39. Next is a motion to approve disbursements for advanced travel checks numbered 1487 through 1493, totaling $1,003.00. A motion to approve disbursements for electronic transfers numbered 691 through 707, totaling $1,272,792.12. A motion to accept the decamp facility contract 21-07 as complete. A motion authorizing the mayor to sign a CHIP grant contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce. A motion adopting resolution R-11-26, a resolution authorizing the mayor or designee to execute the combined subdivision participant and release form governing the participation in the settlement and calculation of and payment eligibility from 6 remnant defendants settlement, authorizing the mayor and director of finance and administrative services to take all actions necessary to reflect the purpose of the settlement agreement and other matters related thereto. Next is an adopt resolution number R-13-26, a resolution accepting the bid of ESF Development LLC for the Liebecker Sidewalk Infill Project and authorizing execution and delivery of the contract for said project. Motion authorizing a lodging tax grant to WSU football Cougar Legends for an amount up to $3,600 for the WSU Football Legends in Our Minds and Fading Fast golf tournament. Adopt resolution R-14-26, a resolution authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement between the City of Pullman and Pullman School District number 267 relating to the sharing of certain property.
Thank you. Do any council members desire to have any items removed from the consent agenda to be discussed separately? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With that, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. So on to the regular agenda, ordinance number 2606. And with that, we have a trio that are up. And Sean, I'll let you kick this off.
Let Chief Bashir start this.
Where do I kick this off here?
Oh, we got to get the presentation up, yep. I got it. Okay, Rob, that should be ready now.
Thank you for having us here tonight, council members. I'm going to talk about some information regarding House Bill 2015. Like Sean said, we're going to be dividing up some of this presentation to kind of help answer questions and provide the information in as organized format as we can. So, what is House Bill 2015? To put it in very simple terms, it's essentially was a House bill that was passed last summer, and that bill has two parts to it. It has a grant funding aspect as well as a local sales tax. Any funds that are obtained through the sales tax or through the grant must be utilized for criminal justice purposes. So there are many taxes that often will come in through sales tax or other locations which could be shared. This is not one of those taxes. This tax is only to be used for criminal justice purposes. So the police department has went through quite a bit over the last several months to kind of prepare ourselves in order to make this application. And there's been a little bit of confusion, and I want to clear up some of that confusion right off the bat. We had talked about approximately 1,800 hours to prepare for this. Well, that 1,800 hours includes training time. And within this grant application, the state mandates that the police department and the officers within the police department meet certain criteria for training in different areas. And there are approximately 17 categories of training that are required by the state of Washington. And just for an example of what some of those categories are, we're required to have 100% training by all of our commissioned officers, including myself, for a whole bunch of these, including sexual assault investigations for patrol response, sexual assault investigations, start by believing. 100% of our dedicated investigators must complete a sexual assault victim-centered engagement training. And that's a 40-hour course that is much more advanced, so you would think of that as being something for our detectives or our sexual assault investigation team. That is a beginning aspect of some of the trainings that are being required by the state. Something that applies to all of our officers department-wide is the Law Enforcement Training and Community Safety Act. And we're required to have all officers eventually trained with that particular act. And it's come down to a layman's terms calling that a patrol tactics class. And that's something that came into place during some of the reform laws after the George Floyd incident. And there are a lot of good things that come from some of this training. Funding is not one of those things that comes from a lot of these trainings. Most of these trainings are unfunded state mandates. You are required to do this training by a certain time period, and if you do not do that, then an individual officer runs the risk of being decertified by the state of Washington and no longer able to perform as a police officer. Most of these trainings have a deadline of December 31st, 2027. There are many of them that have deadlines that also expire at December 31st of 2026, so at the end of this year. I won't go into all 17 of those, but there are a variety of trainings that are required. So I'm going to touch base on a couple more things real quick here. There are two aspects remaining to our application for this House bill. And one of those is a crisis intervention training that the Pullman Police Department will be hosting along with the Criminal Justice Training Commission, and we'll be hosting that training right here in this council chamber. And that will include many members of the Pullman Police Department as well as other officers from other agencies locally and allow them to meet the requirements for that training. There's also a mandated use of force instructor training that will be taking place during the summer. The reason those two specific trainings are noteworthy are because those are the last two things hanging out there to meet all of the criteria that are mandated by the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. Once we have completed that, then we'll be done. Why does that matter and to list them so specifically? Once we make our grant application, which we made on March 30th, we have 180 days to come into compliance with all aspects of the grant. And those two things are remaining out there. When we make the grant application, Criminal Justice Training Commission is aware of that, and when you make the grant application, essentially you can tell them your plan, i.e., you're going to work with us and we're going to host training here, and so they're aware of that, and we have that 180 days to come fully into compliance with the training. And essentially that puts it into September, if you count from March 30th. There have also been some questions as to, paying for the training. Are we spending a lot of money in order to accomplish this training that we may not be getting back from the state? Well, with any kind of a grant application, you don't know what they're going to give you. You are essentially asking and applying for this grant and hoping that they will approve this grant. Most of the trainings that we have spent all of this time and effort on are mandated. We had to do them anyway. Essentially, instead of spreading it out until the end of 2027 for some of them, or till the end of 2026 for some of them, our department made a real hard push to bring us up to the required levels for each of those trainings. And each of those trainings, in order to apply for the grant, they have a particular percentage that you're required to meet. And I won't bore you with all of those particular percentages, but we brought ourselves up for everything except for those last two that I mentioned that we'll be doing this summer. The police department has made a substantial investment into improving our transparency and training and our community engagement over the last several years. And I find that is extremely important. And, you know, to be engaged with the community, to be transparent with the community. And some people might ask, well, what does that transparency look like? Body-worn cameras. You know, all of our officers wear body-worn cameras. We have cameras in our fleet vehicles. Those are not inexpensive. You know, our contract with Axon is about $500,000, and that's spread out over 5 years. Unintended consequences of those body-worn cameras. Public records requests. Now that you have all of these body-worn camera videos, and we're generating, on average, probably, if you have 24 hours a day coverage and you have 3 officers per shift, we're generating anywhere between 20 and 50, and maybe even 100 hours a day, depending upon busy weekends, of body-worn camera video that is being stored by Axon. All of that body-worn camera video can be requested through the public records laws. In order for us to release those public records and to do it lawfully, they have to be redacted to protect innocent victims from having their names being released, to protect other criminal justice intelligence things that cannot be released. That requires a lot of time, energy, and effort. Currently, the level of our public records is, we're getting swamped. We have close to 300 unfulfilled public records requests at the moment. Many of those are things that involve body-worn cameras. So that transparency, although absolutely critical to our community, and to be able to provide that and to be able to show our community and to be able to successfully prosecute crimes, that is not an inexpensive thing. Other areas that oftentimes get overlooked when you talk about budgets and money and where is it going. Just recently we renewed our district court services contract. That's $1 million contract. It's spread out over 2 years. That is an unfunded state mandate. We are required by the state of Washington to have a district court and to process misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors. It's an unfunded state mandate. We are required to have that. We contract with Whitman County and their district court because it is a much more efficient way of doing it rather than having a complete and independent municipal city of Pullman court. The expenses and the overhead would be astronomically higher than what that contract amount is. So there's a lot of things that happen, budget-wise, and the reason I respond to these is because I had questions about that this week. And I want to make sure that all of the council members and members of the public hear what some of those expenses are and why is the police department budget $10 million. That seems extravagant. When you start adding up $500,000 contracts here, $500,000 contracts there that are essentially mandated, there's not a lot of choice. And then you look at the other side of what is the most expensive aspect of a police department? It's our people. It's our manpower. It's our officers who are out there doing the work. They are 70% of our expenses at the police department. So when you look at budget reductions, that 70% appears to be an easy target, but that may not be the best choice. Something that I wanted to kind of bring up is the mission of the Pullman Police Department. The Pullman Police Department is committed to continuing its mission of providing professional police services that prioritize public safety, quality of life, and the rights of all. Regardless of decisions that you make tonight, that is still our mission. That is still what we are going to be doing. What I ask is that when you consider this, nobody wants to have more taxes, me including, but services cost money. There has to be a cut somewhere in this budget at our current funding levels. Even with House Bill 2015, 0.1% sales tax implemented, there will be additional cuts. This does not completely solve the problem. This is one part of solving that problem. And I'm going to let Jeff talk a little bit more about some of those other parts. Thank you.
And then we'll save questions till everybody's through.
Good evening, Council. What I want to do is really share some financial context, and I'm not going to go through a whole financial presentation. You'll probably get that from me next meeting. But I do want to share a little bit of financial context because this does relate to the bigger picture of where the city's at. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of share some of the decisions that Council has made and staff's involved them in addressing the current budget shortfalls we had. So the first one was back in December, and I realize some of you weren't on council then, but we had approved our CIP plan back in June as required to submit. When we actually went, what we usually do is that plan gets approved in June, and then at the end of the year, we do budget amendments for whatever the cost of those projects are. We actually amended the budget $4.1 million less than the approved plan. So what was approved, we actually cut, either reduced scope of projects, delayed projects, in a few cases canceled projects. So that reduced $4.1 million that had previously been potentially needed expenditures for 2026. In February, we brought forward budget amendments, and what the council did is they reduced the operating expenses, and these are citywide numbers. So you've heard us kind of talk about primarily the general fund being the most stretched, which it is. These are citywide numbers, although a large portion of this is general fund. But we reduced budget expenditures by $2.2 million. That's our operating budgets. That's our day-to-day buying goods and services, paying for staff, just the things you needed day-to-day to run the city. So the council approved a $2.2 million reduction of those expenses. Those reductions included, at that point, reductions in staff in overtime, number of staff hours, and at that point, there was 3 vacant positions, regular full-time positions in the city that were vacant, the assistant fire chief, police officer, and accountant. Those were brought forward to council, and we removed those 3 positions from the 2026 budget. So that's, those staff cuts were made for the full year to be determined how to be going forward, but that was made for the full 2026 year. And then the other thing that happened at the February 10th meeting is council approved a utility rate increase that would generate about $700,000 a year in utility rates and rates for sewer, water, and storm water. So that's kind of some history of what the council's role has been in addressing current budget challenges. A few other things that have either already happened staff-wise or happened since those budget amendments. We have done a reduction, as I think most people are aware, in our casual, which is generally our part-time staffing. This has been in the areas of library, parks, recreation, fire, engineering, transit, and maintenance and operations. So between the full-time staffing reductions through vacancies and the casual staff reductions, every single department within the city has seen some type of staffing level reduction over the last 3 months or so. We did have one additional full-time regular position become vacant. This was in the Public Works Community Development area with an administrative assistant that is being held open. We did do a COLA reduction. Originally, the budget had called for a 3% increase for non-representative staff. That was reduced to 1%. So obviously, our contracts with labor unions were in place, but for non-representative staff, that increase in salary was held to 1%, and that does include most department heads. And then we have been working, at any given point, we have staff out on medical leave. And they can use sick leave, in which case they do maintain their full pay, but a lot of them are on unpaid leave for sick leave or being paid through the state PFMIA process, which doesn't cost the city. So what we've been is very deliberate in how we backfill those hours to not to try to minimize overtime or not increase staffing costs. So we're getting some staff savings there. So in addition to what you saw on the previous slide, which was the $2.2 million in operational reductions for the city, the $700,000 increase in revenue, these up here are not reflected yet in the budget, but these account for about another little over $700,000 in operational savings, with a significant portion of that being related to staffing reductions in either the part-time or additional vacant positions. So kind of the bigger picture, as Chief Bashir said, there's not one magic solution to some of these budget challenges. We are approaching it in both trying to increase the quantity of revenues, identify new revenue sources, and as you just saw on the previous slides, reductions in expenses. The bottom line is costs continue to outpace revenues, and that's pretty common. I'll give you a couple specific examples. So a major source of revenue on the general fund side is property taxes. Property taxes for existing properties went up 1% last year. The addition that we gained from new property, new development, was about 0.7%. So that means our property tax revenue for the city goes up 1.7%, which is good. 4 of the last 5 years, the increase from property tax revenue in the city has been less than the increase in inflation. So that's 4 of the last 5 years, including this year, of course. Another example is revenue. You've heard us talk about sales tax revenue. The last 2 years, sales tax revenue has declined slightly. That isn't necessarily fully indicative of sales in Pullman. There's a lot of things in Pullman and in the state of Washington that are not subject to sales tax. Rent, housing, groceries, utilities, none of those are subject to sales tax in Washington, which is different from some states. So what that could actually mean, a lot of those have seen increases. We've all seen increases at the grocery store. We've even seen increases on a lot of the utility bills, on electrical and natural gas. It's very possible that people are spending the same amount of money in Pullman, but less of it is being subject to sales tax. Both at the state level and the local level, that impacts, which then also impacts money that's brought from the state back to the local level. So those are just a couple of examples of the revenue challenges that are currently being faced. A lot of the reductions we saw at one time, some of them are long time. One-time reductions are helpful short-term, but there is some long-term challenges, and we need to make sure and address those long-term challenges. Not all of those cuts you saw previously will be able to be sustained long-term. Some will, but not all of them. Staffing reductions will cause service cuts. We've already seen that in some areas, right? Whether it's reduced hours or reduced services available. And that's something that is going to be true regardless of any scenario. And additional action is still needed regardless of any action taken tonight on this particular ordinance. So part of our larger strategy, obviously, we're continuing to work to control costs. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I give our department heads amazing credit. The work that they've done and the detail that they've gone through, it's a difficult task, and they've put a lot of work on it, and there's more work to do. There is continual workforce adjustments. Again, regardless of tonight, we're going to continue to address the workforce levels. With over 70% of the costs being related to staff, you can only reduce expenses so much without being able to address it at a staffing level at some point. And we will continue to look at ways to increase revenues either through quantity or through additional revenue sources.
So I guess I'm hitting cleanup here. What can council do tonight? What is being asked is to approve a 0.1% sales tax increase, which in simplistic terms is 10 cents for every $100 that you spend on dinner with your family. The earliest implementation, and the reason it seems like we're rushing it, has to do with the timing of when the applications go forward. If we want to implement the sales tax on July 1st, then we have to have the application done with council passing this ordinance into the state by April 17th. There's a 75-day notice then that has to go out to the public to say, hey, the tax is going to increase on a certain day. We can only implement those on the start of each quarter, January, April, July, and they don't do in October. So earliest we would be able to participate would be the July 1st. It's councilmanic authority, which means that we don't have to go to a vote of the public. In fact, that's not required until after June 30 of 2028. If council decides to not take action tonight, they still could in the future up to June 30. After that date, it would have to go to a vote of the public. The House Bill 2015 sales tax option, we estimate that for the remainder of 2026, it would generate about $200,000 in revenue. That has to do with the timing. Even though it's implemented in July, there's a time lag from when the sales actually happen in Pullman, the money goes to the state, and then it's given back to us in about 90 days, so, or our portion of that. So that's why it's only $200,000 and not half, if you would. We would only see a part of that in 2026. For the remaining years, though, and moving forward, based on current sales, it's somewhere between $600,000 to $650,000 is what we anticipate that would generate, and that's ongoing annual revenue that would come into Pullman. So that helps stabilize our public safety funding. As we've mentioned tonight, it's another revenue stream there. Reduces the severity of the citywide cuts that are impending, and it supports the police services directly. This money can't be used for anything else. It would come back and be supporting on the police services. But what it doesn't do, like Jeff and Chief Brashears mentioned, does not eliminate all of the budget gaps or the challenges that we have. There will be additional difficult decisions coming forward, and it does not replace the need to make significant structural changes. So staff's recommending for council that you support police services with a vote for House Bill 2015 sales tax implementation of 0.1%, basically by adopting Ordinance 2606, and that would be effective implementation date of July 1st. And with that, any one of the three of us are available for questions.
So first of all, we start with, are there any questions you have for staff? And Councilmember Parks?
Thank you. We all know that Whitman
And Sean,
County.
can you clear that so that we can see Councilmember Wright also, please? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. We all know
Sorry.
Whitman County just implemented this same process, and I know a lot of people are confused as to why the city is also doing it. So could you clarify for us, is there overlap or not in the funding? Does that make?
The 0.1% sales tax that Whitman County just passed under House Bill 2015 is not a revenue sharing tax. That would stay solely with Whitman County for their criminal justice purposes, the Sheriff's Department and the courts. None of that would come back to the city of Pullman.
Thank you. And then conversely, then, when our funds that we receive stay right in Pullman?
That is correct.
They don't, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fajarin?
Thank you. I just have one direct question. If this sales tax revenue is not passed, can we expect or frontline staffing up police officers to be affected?
There will be reductions in all general fund staffing levels, whether this tax is passed or not. If it is not passed, there will be deeper cuts in general fund services, which includes all departments basically, except for the most part, Public Works.
Are you able to provide council with a little bit more specifics of where those cuts are going to come from?
Not at this time.
And part of it, Sean, can you talk about the process that's going through in order to evaluate, to service?
Sure. In order to make reductions in force, we have to go through a process where we identify the workload that's being done with each work group and how they are staffed appropriately or not appropriately. So in some work groups, we may have an abundance of work and not enough staff. Other work groups, we may have more staff than we have work. So we haven't done that analysis yet. That's moving forward here very shortly. We're also looking at, in conjunction with the cuts that we've already made with our casual and seasonal staff, we are working on some areas where we might have some other savings as well regarding staffing levels. I can't disclose those at this time tonight, but we are working on some other avenues as well.
Councilmember McDonald?
So speaking of reductions in staff and affecting all departments, I just want to make sure I understand how much was the police department impacted by the COLA reductions and the casual staffing reductions that we did?
2 non-reps or 3? Yeah, so the non-represented staff cost of living adjustments affected the chief, the operations commander, and an administrative assistant. So 3 staff there. The rest of the union, or the rest of the staff is represented on that. And the other part of your question related to casual staff, I don't believe the police department had any casual staff that were affected at this time.
Councilmember Weller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know I had sent some of these questions so that there could be some idea of how we got here. And I did have 2 others. So I want, each time there are challenging economic, periods, I mean, this is not the first. Pullman has been in this. There's been recessions. There's certain things that are in our control and certain things that aren't. What I'd like to ask, Jeff, is do you know, are other cities, particularly in Washington, facing similar economic challenges? And I have several questions, just so you know. So I wanted to just start with that.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have specific, it's more anecdotal, but I will share one specific with you. So yes, the revenue challenges that are being seen here are not unique to Pullman in any way, shape, or form. They're pretty common across pretty much all communities, and a lot of them are the similar ones you're hearing about at the state level, right? Whether it's sales tax revenues or those types of things. The other thing I did look up, every time there's, new sales taxes are implemented 3 times a year. April 1st just had a sales tax. 31 cities saw sales tax increases on April 1st, and those weren't necessarily specific to the HB 2015. They could have been for a number of different reasons, but 31 cities, either the county that affected the city or the city saw a sales tax increase in April, and I suspect we'll see a significant number in July here also with the timing of HB 2015. So yeah, these challenges aren't unique to us, and their approach isn't unique to us either.
Okay, and there's a few other, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor. I know you've discussed a lot of these financial challenges before, but I'd like to see, and I'm putting you on the spot, if you can identify any particular factors that are placing us in this position. And I know it was last minute I had written this down as the presentation.
Yeah, just a few things, and some of these I alluded to. Inflation's been high nationwide now for a while. That typically slows construction at every level, right? Construction, one, creates sales tax on at least portions of construction. So as construction slows, sales tax revenues slow. The other thing that construction does is creates new sources for property taxes, right? So I'm assuming it's not the university or the school district or something that's tax exempt. So that growth, like I said, we get 0.7% increase in our property tax this past year in the levy for new growth. Quite often that additional increase is closer to 1.5% to 2%. So half or 0.75% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is our largest revenue source. So the one is nationwide inflation. It slows spending, and specifically on construction really slows. And there's usually a little bit of a delay on that because of the timing of construction. So that's definitely a big factor that's impacting us. A lot of the state revenue sources that you've heard about are down, and a lot of those revenue sources get shared back to the city, right? Whether it's portions of what they collect on marijuana taxes and alcohol taxes and fuel taxes and those types of things. So a lot of those revenues are going down to the state level, but we get a portion of those back from the state. So our portion, of course, is smaller too. So you're really seeing just a lot of the revenue streams are being very flat, either because of reduced spending for national economics or just, challenges at the state level.
Okay, and I would also like to follow up on the marijuana thing. There was a time that the police were supposed to get a larger chunk of the marijuana tax revenue, and that never appeared. So that was something that I know has affected us. Now, on to kind of the future. Do we have a roadmap to getting back into the black?
Sure. Yeah, so a lot of it you kind of heard me talk about, and again, it's a multi-pronged approach, right? So, a lot of those expenses that we're talking about, as we look at some of these staffing reductions, the one positive out of staffing reductions, it really gives you an opportunity to reevaluate roles. That's a little hard to do when everything's full and you're trying to shuffle people around and create efficiencies. So I think staffing structures, I think as Sean mentioned, allows us to do long-term changes that will create some opportunities. Certainly, if we do identify new revenue sources, those create new opportunities, and certainly trying to grow the growth in Pullman and whether it's, the investments that we've made in tourism and some of those things to have them grow. But as we approach, the next budget cycle, you're going to hear a lot of these things. Like I said, some of these things that we've cut will come back into the budget because they were short-term cuts, but you'll hear a lot of these cuts that we'll talk about as we enter the next budget cycle that will be long-term positive impacts, or should be positive impacts to the financial bottom line.
Okay, and the last question I have, because you've already really answered my other question regarding how much is this going to impact, you said doesn't really impact housing, is that correct? Or rent?
Right, so
Yeah.
housing rents aren't subject to sales tax, nor are sales of property. There's other taxes that apply to sales of property, but sales tax is not one of them, so.
So my last question is a tax comparison to other comparable cities in Washington.
Sure. I did a quick look, and you kind of heard me talk last time that it's hard to find good comparables in Washington. I did want a quick number. There's 407 taxing locations in the state of Washington. So that's about 300-ish cities plus counties, and I think there's a few tribals that are in there. The lowest right now is there's 10 cities in the entire state that are at 7.7% sales tax rate. That's the bottom. The top is Edmonds and Lidwin that are at 10.7% is their sales tax rate. Out of those 407 locations, 80% of them are at 8.1% or higher, which is currently higher than Pullman. And 66% of them are at 8.3% or higher. So 8.2% with the county and the city is what Pullman would potentially go to. So at the current rate, 66% of the taxing locations, and cities are usually a little bit higher than counties, would be higher than that 8.2%. And that's, of course, exclusive of any other increases that may come up in July for other entities.
Okay, and actually, I did forget one question, and I had asked about this. The sales, do we have a breakdown of the amount of sales tax passed by the city, what they're for, and versus other entities within the city?
Sure. So the current 8%, just to kind of break up that slice of pie, the state gets 6.5. So that means 1.5 is local, and that 1.5 local is a combination of county and city. And some of the taxes are shared. Pretty much every entity in the state has what they call regular and optional, and those are each 0.5. So that's 1% that's local. So there's 1%, there's a little bit of that gets shared at the county, but basically there's 1% of that 8% goes to the city, and that's what you see on our sales tax reports minus that little sliver for the county. There is a criminal justice sales tax in place that's been in place for decades that is 0.1%. That is a shared one, so unlike what Chief Bashir said, where this one can't be shared between the county and cities, that one's shared, so that's 0.1%. Out of that 0.1%, Pullman's share is a little more than half of it. So we get about 500, the rest of it goes to the county or other towns in the county. The county has a 0.1% for correctional facilities, that goes solely to the county for their correctional facilities. There's what you've heard about called the 0.09 rural counties. That goes directly to the county. There's a 0.1% for emergency communications that goes directly to the county. And then there is the 0.1% for the TBD that was implemented 2 years ago. So a little over 1.1% roughly goes to the city. Not quite 0.4 goes to the county, and about 6.5 goes to the state under the current 8%.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councilmember Wright, since we haven't heard from you yet. You're muted.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
So I did just mainly have comments. My first one is for Chief Bashir's, and I want to thank the chief for his addressing and resolving some of the concerns that I had regarding this. I also appreciate his delineating out all of the areas of training that are being accomplished through this, whether they're unfunded mandates or not. Training is still a valuable option for our community police. And then, you know, the last thing I would just like to comment on is that I don't like taxing any more than anybody else does. But I think we have an opportunity here to initiate a number of procedures pertaining to, as Chief Bashir's mentioned, community engagement and community policing, some of which I think we would welcome. And my last comment regarding that is, can we afford not to take advantage of some of these things that are being brought our way? So thank you for everybody involved in putting all this information together. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Councilmember McDonald, did you have a question?
It's just a minor one. You mentioned the massive amounts of public records requests. I don't know the answer to this, but like I've seen in Washington, some other cities charge like a nominal fee for, do we do that too?
Yes, we do, and I would expect to see a fee increase coming to the council at a date to be determined in the future. We are almost finished with that project. We have just a few minor details and that will be coming before council to increase the fees.
In order to bring an increase, we have to justify how we're not making money as a part of the process. So, any other, Councilmember Vance?
Just a follow-up to that question. What is currently the fee that someone might expect?
That depends. If you're making a public records request to the police department, currently, you may be paying a different rate than you would if you were to make a public records request to the city clerk. And there are quite a few state regulations involved in setting those fee rates based upon salaries and et cetera. A real basic fee rate that you might see would be a charge per piece of paper that was copied. That really is a very minimal thing, and we're not going to make our money back or even break even on charging people for making copies. Where for the police department, where we're experiencing the most significant impact on our staffing is body-worn cameras. And we have literally thousands of hours of body-worn camera that are subject to public records requests, and we have a lot of people who are requesting those videos. We also have people who are requesting those videos for profit. These are people that are reposting them on YouTube for YouTube channels, and they are making a profit off of this, and we're trying to work through that, and they essentially have just redundant records requests that just keep coming, and that's something that we're trying to address. And I didn't answer your question specifically on exactly how much it is, but we're charging pennies essentially at this rate.
No, thank you. It helps to build a framework around. Thank you.
Any other questions related to this? Okay, I'll let staff sit down then. So before you, council, you have staff's recommendation related to an ordinance. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion related to this ordinance? And obviously, if we're going to discuss it, there needs to be a motion on the floor.
Move to adopt ordinance 26-06, sales and use tax for criminal justice purposes. For the city.
Second.
Second.
We have a second. Do we need to read it?
Ordinance number 26-06, an ordinance enacting an additional sales and use tax for criminal justice purposes.
With that, then I open up for discussion. Is there any discussion related? Councilmember McDonald?
Okay, so I wrote mine down. So first I want to say that I think our police and our fire do an incredible job. I'm grateful for what they do and how they connect with our community. If I was going to prioritize where we were going to spend money, fire and police would certainly be at the top of my list. And when we look at where we have cut costs, I would already say that there are examples where we are already doing that. The key there is the money that we do have. And I've said at nearly every meeting since the utility rate meeting that I'm not going to vote to raise taxes and fees. And I'm certainly not going to vote for it until we have a clear plan on how to increase the volume of taxes through more business, more people visiting, more residential, more commercial construction, residential and commercial construction. And the harsh reality is we don't have that plan yet. And when there's an opportunity to increase fees and taxes, we figure out how to squeeze those into these meetings. Let's figure out how to have that same urgency for topics that are meaningfully going to improve our city finances and not on the backs of the community. We've heard repeated requests for easier ways for people to stay, including short-term rentals, places for RVs, sports tournaments, just to name a few. Trevor asked months ago for a joint meeting from the planning groups, and that still hasn't happened. We have people wanting and trying to build in Pullman. I will be a no vote for this increase in taxes, and I'll continue to be a no vote for anything that raises rates and taxes until we have a strong plan to drive up our tax volume. And I urge everyone, including myself and my fellow council members, to the people at the city and the people that are listening to these ideas and part of our community, that let's look for ways to make it easier to visit, shop, build, and do business in Pullman and the community that has the ideas that we need to make that a priority. It means we have if it means that we have to stop canceling meetings and that we use those meetings to focus on welcoming businesses in Pullman, let's do that. If we need to reprioritize what makes the agenda, let's do that. This is a problem this problem does not go away, and eventually the increases in taxes and fees will actually make it worse if we do not tackle the root of the problem. I'm a no vote, but I certainly would be a yes for adding agenda items that tackle the other side of this problem. I'm not saying that I'll never vote for a tax increase, but we absolutely must have a plan to raise our tax volume first.
Councilmember Fajarin.
Thank you. I also wrote mine based on all the conversations that I had this past week. So thank you so much. And thank you, Brian, for starting first. Over the past 18 months, as we can see, the council has made significant cuts. And personally, I don't feel like I've done my best to communicate to the community the depth of what already has been reduced. So I appreciate Jeff and everybody presenting it again. We are now really at a point where the next round of cuts will affect frontline safety officers, and that was a big deal for me. This is really not a hypothetical. This is where we are right now. And in these conversations that I've had about this sales tax increase, I've asked everybody one question. If council doesn't pass this, where specifically are cuts going to come from instead? And I think that I have not received a specific answer from those that I've asked in the community. And so I believe opposition without an alternative, I do believe in a plan, but that plan must come from council. We are in charge of directing staff in order to fix this revenue issue. So I'm voting yes today because opposition without an alternative is not a governing position. The community deserves funded public safety, and a yes vote tonight is the only position that comes with a specific answer right now.
Councilmember Vance?
Thank you. I just wanted to start with saying thank you for coming up and speaking with us, Sean, Jeff, and Chief Brashears. I also wrote mine out, and I wanted to express right off the bat my support for our police and the role that they play in our community and keeping our community safe. It makes this decision before us difficult, certainly, as well with the amount of feedback we've heard. My decision ultimately came down to the broader sentiment that I've heard from our community, especially over the last couple of years and the last few months. We've seen pretty large tax increases at the state level, increases in property tax, and potentially more coming down the line. At a local level, we've seen a decrease in spending coming in through sales tax. I think one of the things that was mentioned tonight that is worth mentioning is there has been a 56% decrease in short-term rental inventory. It's a loss of about $510,000. That's a loss of around 336 people in our community over the course of a year that could be spending money here. And so I want us to also put a focus on increasing revenue, removing barriers, burdens, and making it easier for people to come to Pullman. And I think that to do that, we have to increase the amount of revenue through sales, not tax.
Councilmember Shumas?
First off, I want to thank Jeff and Sean and Captain Brashears for, for taking the time to talk to us. Did I not say Jeff? I thought I said Jeff. Sorry. I also wrote out what I was going to say. I have actually lost quite a bit of sleep over this vote, starting with the fact that I believe that taxes are the price that we pay for a civilized society. I take no pleasure in this vote. I support our police wholeheartedly, and I would like to ensure a strong, stable foundation for our police and fire services. They are essential services, and the people who provide them deserve our respect and support. But we are in a moment right now in Pullman where taxes are being viewed with deep skepticism, and many in our community feel a growing sense that they are being asked to give more without feeling fully heard. And that is a concern that I cannot ignore. I believe I was elected on the idea that I would step outside of tradition and stand up for the people that I represent. This is not where I had hoped to draw that line, but unfortunately, this is where we are. So at this time, my vote is no. I do believe there is more chances to bring this forward, and I would hope that the city would work hard to sell this better so that the people that we represent feel more strongly in agreement with this. And then that we as a city would continue to focus on building revenue through growth. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Councilmember Parks?
Thank you. So there are a lot of factors that have brought us to this point, And I totally agree with figuring out ways to increase revenue, increase visitors, find ways, develop plans. However, for me, at the crux of this issue is right now we have three officers each on a 24-hour shift, okay? That's not a lot. And if we have to cut somebody, that's going to impact our public safety, frankly. And when we speak about budget, the public always typically says, don't cut police, don't cut fire. Why? Well, because those are the two most critical public-facing outreach agencies in the entire city. They daily run toward danger. They offer protection. They save lives. We've all been here when officers have been honored because of the work they do, and it's not anything that a lot of us would be able to do. So I think I would like to think about that. We, at the Chamber luncheon today, Representatives Schmick and Dye and Senator Schessler were there, and they spoke about the budget difficulties at the state level. And when they're having that much difficulty, and it is a lot, that impacts everyone else in Washington. So I think that's a big factor that could be part of our future plan, but I just want people to think about it in terms of what we're actually dealing with. We just can't. My final thing is, if we vote no, if this is not voted through, yes, we have the opportunity to address it again. But each time this comes up, the police department budget and the staffing and the resources will keep falling behind. And for me, it's about staying ahead of that curve, even though, as the chief said, this is not going to solve everything and there still will be losses in services. But if we vote no, how much more substantial will that loss be, and how much more will it take to regain that in the future? Thank you.
I want to give Councilmember Weller or Wright an opportunity to speak before anyone else. Back again. Councilmember Wright?
I would concur with everything that Councilmember Parks just commented upon. As I mentioned in my remarks, I don't think we can afford not to do this. I understand that we all want a plan, we need a plan, but I think inherent in what is being asked of us through this House bill opportunity, we don't have the time to put a fully developed plan together, given the timeline that we're looking at. And so I think, again, we still need to take an opportunity that's in front of us. And so for those reasons, I will be a yes vote on this. Thank you.
Councilmember Weller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate everything that, fellow council members, the mayor, financial director, city administrator, and chief have said, along with all of the community comments. Look, I mean, as I said before, each time we face economic difficulties, it feels like we're between a rock and a hard place. We've heard the information of what we can control, what we can't control. The mayor shared his State of the City report a short time ago, which showed that Pullman is continuing to grow its non-student long-term population. What I and others continue to hear from people who move here or move back to Pullman, the reason is it's safe. Well, emergency services are integral to that continuing safety as our population grows. When I was first elected in the late 2000s, we were facing a national recession. We had to make a lot of difficult decisions. I, in fact, voted to take a pay cut. Didn't really do much. Are there areas that we can improve as a city, streamline, and explore new opportunities? Yeah, I'm sure there are. But we also know that there are things that are completely out of our control. There have been increased unfunded mandates from the state. Decisions at the national level have impacted our local community and WSU. We heard that, and we feel it. The pain that our community feels, that we feel, and our departments is not trivial. We all take this very, very seriously, and I know we're going to continue to explore all options. That's my statement.
Councilmember Fitzgerald. Okay. Is everyone else? Seeing none others, then we move to a vote. All those in favor of passing this ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 I have 4 that I heard. All those against signify by saying nay.
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 Sorry?
So if we can do a hand vote, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, then? Okay. Motion passes. Next item up, second agenda item is Resolution R 1226, and with that, Clayton Forsman.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. On March 25th, bids were opened for the Mountain View Gardens City Improvements Project. This project consists of both utility pipeline replacement and road resurfacing in a residential area on Mountain View Drive, Daisy Street, Kimball Court, and State Street. 2 bids were received, and both were above our engineer's estimate. Included in your packet tonight is a bid summary which shows a detail of those bid amounts compared to our estimate. The low bid came in at about $2.2 million, which is 11% above our estimate. And as we've analyzed this, really we think there are 2 main factors that have led to the increase in price above our estimate. One would be the fact that the recent conflict in Iran occurred during the bidding period. This has driven up oil prices, as you know, in a short amount of time and led to a lot of volatility in the market. The second factor is time of year. We had expected to receive more than 2 bids. I think this is a case where during that bidding period, a few contractors picked up some work and then they didn't bid our project. So that leads to less competition and higher prices. So after considering the bids and consulting with our finance team, staff believe the best and most fiscally responsible course of action is to reject the bids received and delay the project to 2027. If we bid the project this fall, so in the fall of 26, we will have more bidders, which will help with competition, and hopefully the market will be more stable at that time. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have on this item.
So any questions? Yes, Councilmember McDonald?
Have we reached out to any of the contractors that we would expect to normally bid this and to get the specific feedback about what all the decisions were, like maybe that they were too busy or?
Yeah, I personally reached out to a couple contractors during the bidding period, make sure they were aware of the project. We did hear about a third contractor who another staff member reached out to that they had planned to bid it, but then they filled up during the bidding period, so.
Okay, with that, I'd entertain, there's a motion before you related to rejection of doing, I'll let Thad.
Sorry, there was no motion yet.
Right, that's what I was,
Okay,
okay.
sorry.
So I'd entertain a motion for the resolution that rejects the bids.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thad, if you could read the resolution, please.
Yes. Resolution number R-12-26, a resolution rejecting all bids for contract number 23-03, Mountain View Garden City Improvements 2026 project.
With that, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Next up, item lease agreement with Whitman County District Court. And Sean, would you be able to take this? He's in an interview.
I was not prepared for this one. We engage with a lease, as Chief Brashears mentioned earlier, with the District Court for court services. This one in particular is for the space that they occupy in Old City Hall. We've been working a deal with them to do a tenant improvement in what was the old finance and administration area on the first floor, which would move their administration from the east side of the building to the west side of the building when it's done. So this includes part of that, as well as the space that they use for the courtroom itself, which is already there. So I don't have all the specifics in front of me because I wasn't ready for that part, but staff recommends approval of the district court lease with Whitman County.
And with that, any questions of? It's your opportunity, if any. So, Councilmember McDonald,
No.
oh,
I just wasn't sure, did we need to do a motion or anything?
we do need, well, if this is
Okay.
questions first. Seeing none, thank you, Sean. With that, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
A second. And then that, if you could read the motion, please.
Yeah, a motion authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement with Whitman County District Court for court offices and spaces located at 325 Southeast Paradise Street.
With that, any discussion? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. Next item up is discussion item. Before you, you have the draft that between Sean, Megan, and myself, we were able to put together from the discussion that went on during the goals and priorities. And this is really a draft to bring back to you. And you'll notice I also had sent you understanding the qualifiers and then the items that were discussed that we felt were administrative in purpose, so that you had that list. These are items that administratively we'll work forward on, but isn't necessarily fits within the goals. And this is really an opportunity for a discussion. Is there anything that we did not capture accurately? Is there a goal that's missing in this process from the discussion? And this is to look at it. And with that, Councilmember Schumas.
I'm so sorry. I actually need to back up and just get it on the record that I called Chief Brashears captain because I was just kind of nervous to speak and I wasn't paying attention. And I know he's not here now, but I would like to apologize and say that I absolutely know that he's the chief. I am so sorry. Okay, I just had to get that out. Thank you.
When you see the flashing lights behind you, you can apologize then. No. No. Are there any, is there anything that we missed in the caption? Yes, Councilmember Fajarin. And this is, and I'm not expecting everything's perfect, so please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for putting this together. You might know what my comment is about. I'm going to hammer on the SMART goals again. I feel like these are not specific enough. SMART goals help with accountability. It should include specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. For example, on the housing one, I recommended we do by December 2027, advance 30 new owner-occupied housing units in the missing middle range, as recommended by the pro-housing group. I think it's very important that we have at least some tangible metrics in these goals in order to judge ourselves if we're successful or not. So I would just like for these to be a little bit more specific.
Can I see yours for a minute? So what I hear is within housing, what you'd like to do is add to the last sentence, and let me see if I capture this right, by December 2027, advance 30 new owner-occupied housing units in the missing middle range.
Yes, and those Elm Street houses are a great way to, goal was 30 new units per year was the goal that I would like in the housing spot. Yeah.
So is that, and I'm looking to council to see, we don't have to vote, this isn't a final vote, but is there a concurrence on this? Do we want to adjust?
I just have a question, and I'm not at all being argumentative, but when we say a specific number particularly, I'm fine with the time frame, but does that put an unrealistic expectation or on the staff? Could we say like 15 to 30? I mean, I don't know. All I'm saying is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I just don't want to put, when it's so finite, it seems like it adds a lot of pressure. I mean, it would to me as an employee, but I don't know.
Am I able to?
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not recommending these as a metric on how successful staff is. It's about us, our goals. So to me, it's not a metric of how effective staff is. We have a great pro-housing group, so if anything, it's a metric of how successful that group is in working with staff. But I don't feel being specific is putting a expectation on staff to be successful. And it's okay not to fail. It's okay to not meet your SMART goal.
Yeah.
You know, failure, you learn way more about failure than you do success, in my opinion. So that's why I really feel like having metrics in some of these goals is just so important.
Within this, I know part of it is we have a recommendation from the pro-housing work group that hasn't been reviewed yet by the council. The council's seen it, but hasn't gone in depth through it. Is it, rather than taking this specific recommendation out, is it better for the council to review and come up with a targeted plan related? Or I'm asking, and
I hear you.
I'm trying to balance what I just heard from Councilmember Parks and for you.
I feel like the purpose of the work group was to make recommendations, and I feel if we need to just incorporate what they proposed. Past council member Megan Guido gave the housing recommendation last December, I believe. And so I feel like we should just take that and make that the housing goal with specific metrics, 2027, 30 new housing builds a year.
So continue on this one, Councilmember Shumas, and then Vance.
This is my first time going through this, so I just kind of feel, I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for how the whole process goes, you know? So we took in all the emails, we talked to people, we brought our thoughts, staff brought their thoughts, we had that big, long meeting, and then we have whittled it down into buckets, and that's where we're at right now. And then from these buckets, then we're going to build more substantive plans? Is that what's coming next?
So this is the goal process, is to identify this is what we want staff to work on. And then staff is going to be bringing it to council with their research, their recommendation to council, and then council is going to work through each of these as part of that.
Okay.
So this is a higher level of identifying what are the projects that we want staff to be working on to bring to council in order to help council achieve these things.
Okay.
And some of them, and I think part of the challenge that with what Councilmember Fajarin is bringing up is to advance 30 units, the city can't build 30 units. So it's actually in some ways a unreachable goal from the city's standpoint on their own, but we can work to move forward to try to achieve that. We just can't achieve it on our own. And so that's with that understanding.
Okay.
I was in Councilmember McDonald.
I guess the main question I have is just kind of going back to Tawny's point of trying to understand the logistics. So obviously, none of these are SMART goals right now. Like, is our goal today then, or Eric, maybe the question for you, is our goal today to convert each of these categories into SMART goals today, or to go back and work on them and come back to the next one with specific SMART goals? Or like, how do we get from where we are now to SMART goals, 2 pages of SMART goals? No, never mind.
Well,
I'm just saying, it'll be weird to have one SMART goal and the rest are not, you know what I mean? Like, so how do we get from there to, in a consistent way? Like, do we either go all SMART goals and clearly not tonight, or like all high-level aspirational, it's more vision than goal?
And it's more higher level vision, and understand some of these are, you have a qualifier that is explore, which means it's explore, what are the options, is this something we can do, how would we do it? It's hard to have a SMART goal other than we're going to explore and review it, because out of that exploration would then come what do we want to accomplish and what that SMART goal is.
I mean, you could put like specific goals about bring back our recommendations from the exploration by whatever, or something, right? That's like.
And isn't this, this part of it, the quantifying it, I feel like is part of the work group work? Like, these are the goals, but then the work groups are formed by these goals. And then those work groups work on the quantifying, perhaps?
So the work groups are more work groups that the council's going to work on.
Right.
If you drop to page 2 where we have the 2-year goals, those are the ones that the staff is specifically going to be working on.
Okay, you're right. Okay, thank you.
In that context. Councilmember Vance, did you? Okay. Councilmember Fajarin?
Just being selfish and highlighting my other goal that I recommended during our goal-setting session. I know there was a lot of stuff already being done about 311, but I don't see that reflected.
And that was one that we moved to the administrative because of where it's at in the process.
Right. Can we expect, so can we expect a 311 system by the end of this year?
I can't guarantee that, because I don't know what budget cuts will need to be made. But that's a great goal.
And is it, sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. Is it in the CIP right now?
It is in the CIP for 2027, in our proposal that was just sent to council and the planning commission and everything else for 2027 for a 311 system. Assuming that gets passed, our intent for that particular project would be to start looking at vendors and options the end of this year so that we could start rolling out something in 2027, which then follows what we're working on right now with our asset management systems.
Right. Thank you. That's something that I've just been really wanting since I've gone on council, so I'm glad that we have work being done.
And I've wanted it since I've been the public works director.
Yeah.
Councilmember Weller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 things. Where'd Pat go, first of all? And then...
I can answer that.
Okay. I thought we just closed her out, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, she was done. No, actually, she lost her connection right after we passed the sales tax increase.
Okay, cool. And the other thing is, I think what we need to just keep in mind, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Mayor, is that, this is just making sure that, in general, the goals were captured, if we start getting into minutia, we're going to be here much longer. And so we don't want to get bogged down. This is kind of the sky level view, and then work on down. And correct me if I'm wrong on that.
It is. I mean, but if there's something that is missed in this where it's like, no, this thing should be added or this shouldn't, and as Councilman Perjaren said, the specific where that advancing the 30 new owner-occupied units is something specific that he would like to put into that housing work group piece, which is, and that's what I'm looking for is there something that didn't capture your intent? And understand, these are the goals that as a city we're going to work from. And so if you a month from now say, hey, I would like to have the city work on something, understand we already have a goal priority list that we're working from, and that whatever that new thing is would have to then come under and be follow after what we're already been as a council said we want to work on, unless you say, I want to take this one off and reorder. Councilmember Weller?
Thanks for the clarification. I would say the only thing that I think everything is captured in here. I had mentioned, the streamlining meetings. That's more along the lines of administrative, and then also SWOT analysis for departments. But that's along the lines for administrative than anything else. So that was the only thing.
The streamlining
meetings, but that's already ongoing.
That one moved to administrative.
Administrative, that's why I was,
And
SWOT
the
analysis.
SWOT is under operations. It's,
Okay.
it's the third one under operations.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Sorry, I just
no. That's
spanning through. And
that's why we're doing this. Councilmember Schumas.
So part of why I was clarifying is because I haven't been here for this before. I kind of want to know what it is that we're doing, where we're going. And then I want people that are watching along that have never done this before either, that are maybe now more interested in government than they have been, to understand what's going on. So with that, I guess under like community engagement and communication, it doesn't specifically say anything about the sort of social media that we're doing, but I would love and encourage like a high level of social media in there somewhere to explain to people why Pullman, like why keep investing in ourselves.
So if we look at this, if we look under business and, I'm sorry.
I was looking under community engagement.
Your
Am I missing that?
community engagement. So what would you change or what would you add? So I'm right now looking for, is there specific statements as a part of this? We do have some things up under business and economic development about promoting the year-round business, emphasizing Pullman's strengths. So there's some of the things you talked about are up there too.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to I guess I just wanted to say if there was any way we could just put something about commuting with residents, because it says communication between elected official staffs and volunteers. I'd love to get like residents.
And residents?
Yeah.
Okay, so staff.
Thank you.
Volunteers and residents.
Thank you.
Great. You're doing we're all doing fabulous. Councilmember Vance, just because you've, and then we'll come back to.
One that I think we had talked about at the retreat that we had done. I don't really see it super outlined in here, and maybe you can help point me to the right direction. Was an increase in lodging supply. And it's probably a little bit rolled up in the tourism. And that one's pretty broad, but I would love for us to have something that's a little bit more pointed and focused and increase to the lodging supply.
So if under work groups, under housing, so anything that was housing related, I put under there. If you want something pulled out separate. So within that, I talked about the develop and advance the long-term attainable affordable housing plan that includes intersection of ownership, long-term rentals, and lodging. So So if there's a separate place that you would like to, because I was thinking as the housing work group, they're dealing with the housing stock, and the housing stock is home ownership, it's also long-term rentals, and also lodging.
I think it might be beneficial to pull that specific out and put it into lodging. I can, or to tourism, sorry. Yeah, I see both sides of the coin, but I think it might be a little bit more strategic in tourism.
Improve tourism experience and lodging opportunities, would that work? So increase tourism by evaluating and updating strategic tourism marketing plan and working collaboratively to improve tourism experience, lodging opportunities, and game weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like maybe we even broaden it a little bit more with the, like something about like making the Pullman the compelling place to stay. I don't know exactly how to say that.
Yeah. And we, because within the tourism, we do have the strategic tourism plan that already is in place, that is working to how do we increase tourism within our community. We also have our tourism contract with the chamber, where we're devoting specific dollars to go. So as it relates to the tourism plan and how do we track people, we actually have a number of plans that are in place that are being walked out right now.
Yeah, I'm less worried about whether or not we track it. It's more the, like, how do we make sure that, our regulations around short-term rentals, around RV, making RV a possibility here versus with our neighbors or out in the county, or like those are things that the city can actually do, right? That's not the chamber's job. That's not business people. I mean, there's probably an aspect of someone having to decide that they want to do a short-term rental or put their parking lot to use or whatever. But that, like, the mentality behind it is the part where I feel like the city is like, yeah, we want to make it cheaper, easier, more streamlined to support people staying in Pullman. That's the city's job.
So with the lodging piece, the reason why I put it under housing is it's all the same housing stock. And if we pull levers on say, short-term rentals, that actually affects the costs of long-term rentals and also affordable housing. Because they're all pulling
We're going to have to build more than 30 houses.
Well,
yeah, we're going to need to build a lot more than 30
But I'm
houses.
saying, so you can make short-term rentals easier, but that actually reduces the housing supply for affordable housing and for long-term rentals.
And from an economic standpoint.
So that's the reason why I was trying to put them all, have housing look at that whole concept.
Yeah. I was just curious if we have like market data from realtors and Airbnb to support that.
We're actually working on a future study session that will involve a motel, hotel, STR, and also RV to bring in and talk about that data.
Okay, great.
And we do have, at our next study session, we'll have a representative from hospitality that will be in talking about. So I just want to make sure you finished your thought.
Sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councilmember Parks.
And I just wanted to add a point to that when we talk about lodging, and in particular hotels and motels. They are also used as emergency housing for people in crisis. And so that is, if you think more like shelter rather than housing, as far, then that makes sense that it would be included. It makes sense the logic would be included, but it isn't always just normal vacation customers. There are, in the past, they've been utilized for crisis housing as well.
Councilmember McDonald?
One thing I think might be worthwhile under community engagement and communications, I love that it's got the attitude of getting to yes. I almost wonder if one of the projects should be defining and aligning on what that means. I've heard it used a lot from a lot of different people in the community, in business, at the city, on city council, everywhere. And I think everyone has their own version of it. It'd be awesome to have one version that's like, that's what that means.
I like that.
And we can work on that administratively to come up with that and to bring to council. So right now, the only changes I've heard so far is under the housing to add the line by December 27, advance 30 new owner-occupied housing units in the missing middle.
Per year.
Per year, thank you. Under tourism, add at the end, so improved tourism experience, lodging opportunities, and game weekends. And then under community engagement and communication, at the end, increase communication between elected officials, staff, volunteers, and residents. Other items? Come on now. I know Sean, Megan, and I didn't do this well.
He's no more.
Okay, if not, then what we'll do is we're going to clean this up. As a council, staff is going to send you a ranking in order, so these are right now alphabetically ranked. So like within the work groups, you'll rank the priority of each work group by name. We're going to, and then each of the 2-year goals, the overall, so we get a ranking, and then within each one, rankings with each one. And that just helps to get it ranked in order as you see the priority. And then we'll bring that back at the next council meeting for your review to see if you like it. And that'll be at the study session. And then if that's good, then the hope is by the next council meeting, we can get everything approved. So this gives you another chance to look at it in case there's something that you would like to tweak, and we can continue to tweak it. That's not a problem at all while we get this down. This just helps gives direction. What this will do is it'll give direction to staff for the priority of the stuff they need to be working on. This also gives direction to staff as they start to prepare our next 2-year budget, because these are the things that have been identified that as a council you would like to see funded and move forward. So the example, the 311 system would then show up in that way. Councilmember Schumas.
Just a quick question. How much is, considering that this is our first time, Trevor and Brian and I, and we don't really know what this looks like, how much are this year's budget constraints probably going to affect this stage compared to like a normal year? Like quite a bit, or?
I don't quite understand what you're asking.
I think most of these items are more staff time and developing things as opposed to construct or build this thing, or.
So, but that matters because we're paying staff, so like.
So she's wondering what the cost with this level, this number of goals compared to other goals, what is the financial impact?
Your goals as a council affect how we build our work plan and how we develop the next 2-year budget cycle. So any projects you add in here may not be feasible given the staffing levels, and that's based on the priorities that you all set. Then I have to come back and tell you whether that's realistic or not in that. And I come back and say I need more staff or I need more work, which probably isn't going to happen that last one. But that's essentially what happens here is I go through this then and say, all right, based on your priorities, I can get to, say, the top 8, but not the top 15. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's
going to be
just-
some kind of a cutoff there where I have to go through with my department directors and verify that this is realistic or what is realistic.
Okay,
And-
awesome, yeah.
And that's why we prioritize them, so that staff knows as they're work, they'll work down and they might hit a point and says, this is a realistic number. These here actually fall off because it's not realistic within our funding.
No, no problem. Thank you.
No, that's, as we work through this. Councilmember McDonald?
One thing I would hope is as we set the priority on which ones, are the top priority or not top priority, that a big part of that is like keeping in mind we have a tight budget and how are we going to fix that, and prioritizing the things that hopefully help versus hurt the situation we're in.
Okay. Great, and then just as a reminder, and so that should finish up that item. So I don't believe we have any new business for us, so at this.
Did we have to rank them, or that's not
You're
here?
going to get an
A more
email
detailed one.
to where you rank them.
Okay.
If we were to rank them in this meeting, we're going to be here a couple hours. So
I'm not lobbying for it.
We're trying to be efficient in that way. So at this time, the council is going to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the city matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. RCW 4230-110-1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the city matters related to agency enforcement actions, or discuss with legal counsel representing the agency potential litigation concerning number 3, litigation or legal risk of a proposed action or current practice the agency has identified when public discussion of the litigation or legal risk is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. The executive session is expected to last 15 minutes. If it becomes necessary to extend the executive session, someone will return to announce anticipated times needed by the council. The council does not anticipate taking any action following executive session. It's 7:26, and we'll start executive session at 7:30. It's 7:45 at this time. I call the meeting back to order, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Oh, second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. 7:45.